Blog Talk Radio.
So now, O Son of Man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word of my mouth, and warn them from me.
Have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Coming to you from an undisclosed location in Middle Tennessee and examining current events from a biblical perspective, this is Bible News Radio with your sweet and lovable host, Stacy Lynn Harp.
That's right. Well, hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to today's show, and I want to open the show just a little bit differently than I normally do. First thing I want to do, though, is I do want to reiterate the scripture that's in the top of the show that our friend Derek Gilbert reads there in the opening. It's from Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11, which says, "Do not participate in the unfruitful deeds of darkness, but instead even expose them." Now, I don't know if today's show can fulfill this scripture any more than it possibly can, because that's exactly what we're doing today. I have booked this guest, I don't know, about a month ago, and I've been going, okay, I need to get the book. I need to read the book. Finally got the book, read part of the book, but didn't read it all. But that's okay, because I have the author who's going to tell me a whole bunch more than what I've already read. But I want to read you part of a book review for this book, because you and I have talked about privacy issues. Dr. Catherine Albrecht, she is kind of one of the foremost leaders in the world of trying to get us all aware of what's going on with our computers and cybersecurity and all of that. And then we had the situation with Edward Snowden, right? He came out, and everybody knows what happened with him. Well, I want to read you this book, part of the book review from Indie Reader about this book, The Devil Inside the Beltway, because I think this sums it up. And if you're not interested, hopefully you will be after this. So this is what it says. It says, in light of Edward Snowden's recent revelations about the NSA's snooping activities, this riveting story of government surveillance is a must-read for anyone who's concerned about privacy and what information government can and will find out about law-abiding citizens. The book is the true story of the author, the CEO of LabMD, a 25-employee cancer detection laboratory in Atlanta, and how he discovers that more than 9,000 of his company's patients' billing information, including Social Security numbers, was surreptitiously acquired by a security surveillance company called Cybersecurity. Though LabMD had firewalls and servers to protect customer data, one of its employees violated company policy and installed a peer-to-peer file sharing network on her computer in order to listen to music. How many of us have done something like that? Okay. Anyway, listen to this. The file sharing network made LabMD's billing information on her computer available to outsiders, including Cybersecurity, who then tries to extort money from the author in order to correct the security breach. When our guest refuses to pay, Cybersecurity turns his company over to a very menacing Federal Trade Commission. Adding insult to injury, the FTC, which Congress had directed to investigate security leaks, decides to punish LabMD, the victim, instead of the overly aggressive perpetrator, Cybersecurity. Hope I'm saying that right. Daugherty then finds himself in the fight of his life to save his company. So that's what this book is about. And I'm about exposing the unfruitful deeds of darkness, which creates problems with some people. What? What do you mean? You're going to expose me? But I think I'm in good company with our guest today. So Michael, welcome to the show.
It's great to be here. How are you?
I'm good.
Appreciate everything.
Game, set, match.
It is an amazing adventure that I'm on. And from the moment it happened, I just knew in my soul something was wrong. I mean, I can't explain it other than as purely and simply as that. And now I sit here on the other side of that mountain over 6 years later, and it's still going on. And it is so amazing. But I'm so glad so much of this was documented by third-party, sources so that it was believable. Because if it just came out of my mouth, you would just think it was crazy.
Well,
but go ahead.
I actually can believe that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of stuff in the last couple of years that my husband Randall, who's here by the way, you can say hi, Randall.
Hi, Randall.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hey, Randall.
Mr. Smarty Pants, there he is behind the mic. Anyway, but I mean, there's a lot of things in the last couple of years that have come to light for a lot of us, and we're all like, hey, what the heck? This can't be true, but it is. So.
Yeah, but this started in 2008, and that's a great point, because in 2008, that wasn't the case. Even when I started writing the book, it was before Snowden. And I thought, even my own lawyers, when I would tell them what I thought, were just like, okay, Mike, you're getting wound up. And I'm like, and they're just humoring me. And I was like, no, there is just something deeply wrong here. And I had to get to what it was. Sometimes you're taught to turn the other cheek, but this wasn't about turning the other cheek. This was about finding out the truth and about really rooting out what was going on, because it's so appalling. I mean, here we are. We do laboratory medicine. We detect cancer. We're a specialized, small, private company just doing prostate and bladder cancer. And people would send us a tissue to us because that's all our physicians read. So they had a lot more practice make perfect in that one little niche area. And the phone rings, and this guy calls and says, we found your file. And in 2008, when the word breach wasn't even in the lexicon, and we were terrified, and we were terrified for our patients, and we just had to find out how to get out there. And I didn't trust him immediately so I had him only communicate in writing, and I'm so glad I did that. So the book, I don't tell you about our conversations. I show you the conversation, because that's the only way we communicated, was in writing. So you can judge for your own what this guy, how he was setting us up. And he wouldn't tell us anything about how we got it unless we hired him. But he wouldn't say it that way. He would always say, well, that will require a services agreement. I'll get back to you. And it was crazy-making. Yet at the same time, our first priority was for our patients, so we're going to look. We find out that this LimeWire had been installed on a workstation. To this day, we don't know by who, because the install date is before the employee was with the company. She was using it. But LimeWire does not make your whole workstation vulnerable. It makes just the folder where you put things you are willing to share in vulnerable. And usually it's just music. So we're not talking the network. We're not talking the hard drive. We're talking one folder on one computer of a company. And what also I later found out is one of the problems that Congress was investigating already was, why are so many government employees letting high-end secrets get out? These people are not malicious. These are mistakes. And they discovered that this software was acting like malware. It was fooling and confusing the users into sharing things they never had intended to share. While my employee absolutely was violating policy listening to music, and she shouldn't have, and that was against the rules. And it was against the rules to have LimeWire on her workstation. And our IT people would sweep those computers, and they missed it. But she never, ever would have intended to even put patient information at risk, ever. And, so when he wouldn't tell us, and this is not how we roll in medicine, it's not dollar first, it's patient first. It was very off-putting, and we decided to take things in our own hands. And first, I'll make sure the patients were safe, and we got rid of that. We got rid of that folder. We got rid of that program, and then we started looking out in cyberspace. And to this day, 6 years later, can't find it one time anywhere. Yet, he would call and say, or email and say, well, people are looking for it. And that was very creepy because we knew we were the ones looking for it. So it was a very big brother type feel. It felt like a shakedown. It felt extortionistic. It did. It felt like this guy's not going to tell us anything unless we paid him and hired him. And but we had a company to run, so I just wanted him to go away, and I told him to go away. And because we felt like everything, if anything was at risk, the risk was closed, and we never found it anywhere. So later in 2008, they call and say, well, we're going to give it the Federal Trade Commission. And then over a year later, the Federal Trade Commission calls. And that's really where things started to really fall apart, because they called and said, we have got this file and we're going to start a non-public inquiry. You'll get a letter tomorrow. And the phone call was that quick. And what shows up is 11 pages single-spaced. Just the broadest questions known to man. A lot of parts of it are in the book. Everything sort of in a bibliography in the book. You can read all that stuff if you like reading that stuff. But it's amazing to see 11 pages single-spaced for a non-public inquiry of a small company that wouldn't tell us what was wrong or what we did wrong, just want to find out. And what's your training policy? Where's your training manuals? Where's your backup data? What software to use? What servers do you have? How old are your servers? Where's your... just unbelievable stuff. And we dump trucked 5,000 pages on them. And they said we didn't answer their questions. And that's when trust started to fall apart.
Oh.
Here's a small company spending tons of money with lawyers, and we do everything we can, and boom, not good enough.
So, okay.
Just if you want to interject a question, I'm going to keep going. That's fine. I just don't want to go too far off on a tangent, unless you wanted me to keep going.
Well, I always think it's better if I get to ask you a couple.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Actually, there's a couple of things in the book I want to let everybody know about. First of all, you quoted C.S. Lewis right in the beginning as saying, hardships often prepare ordinary people for an extraordinary destiny. So I thought that was interesting. But then there's also here in the prologue, who is the devil inside the Beltway? I want to read this because I thought this was good. Okay. Everybody, listen to this. Okay, the devil is a mindset that infiltrates the minds and souls from the weak to the powerful. It hates principle, memory, and truth. The devil moves freely among us, numbs our ethics, compromises our moral character, cauterizes our memory, charms us into submission, and convinces us that its carnage is for the betterment of mankind. The devil is the master of spin in a world of no up or down, right or wrong, truth or fiction, just a manipulative verbal volleyer, always at the ready to spew. The devil is seductive in convincing you that you are powerless. The devil lives in the silence, but never forget knowledge is power. Stare down the devil inside the Beltway. Look right into its eyes. Now, obviously, I'm going to say that you wrote this from your emotion. That's what it sounds like. Tell me more about that.
I wrote it. I did. It comes out of you. When I write, I have to. I would leave. People write differently. I write very alone and intimately. And there's one line in that movie, Ordinary People. I always love this. It says, "In the silence of our souls, O Lord, we contemplate thy peace." And I love that line because you listen to that, and you have. But sometimes it's hard to put that out. But I felt so strongly about what I'd been experiencing by the time 4 years when I wrote this, that's exactly what I needed to put, because people always were going to ask, well, who's the devil? They go, is the devil Obama? I'm like, no. I know that's what you want me to say, but the devil is just this entire complex of people that have lost their way, and it's shocking to me what I'm experiencing. Shocking. Where truth doesn't matter, to a cancer detection center. So it was really what I just, as heartfelt and as pure as what I felt I was observing.
Well, let me ask you this, just to kind of get a little personal. Not that this isn't personal, but tell me a little bit about your background. Why did you decide to go into the type of lab work that you did? I mean, do you have you don't have a medical degree, do you?
No, but I don't. But I actually have a degree in economics from the University of Michigan, and early on in my career, I wanted to have meaning and mission in my work. And if I wanted to just be a businessman, I probably should have just gone to Wall Street, which is fine if you do it the right way. But I didn't want to be a physician. But I liked being in medicine. I liked being surrounded by intelligent people. I liked the constant change. I liked the lifelong learning. I liked the helping others. There are a lot of things I got out of medicine other than money, and the money was good too. But it was just a world I liked to be in, and I had done a lot of research, and I decided to go into surgical sales. And after about 15 years of that, I worked in the operating room almost every morning for 15 years in the weekdays.
Wow.
Because you'd help, the implantation of your devices or staplers are all things that I sold. And that was a great life, but as you got older, it was time to move on because the company got more corporate and grew. And so I really just shifted my marketplace of what I did for them. My marketplace, it was all urology, but I just changed it to doing prostate biopsy testing for them. And I knew these surgeons so well that I knew exactly what they wanted and needed, and because there was no filter between us. And so they wanted efficiency, they wanted their managed care managed, they didn't want to get yelled at anymore for sending tissue to the wrong laboratory based on insurance direction, but most important, they wanted their patients taken care of, and they didn't want the insurance carrier to get in the way of that, especially when you're doing a cancer call. So we developed software. We didn't invent it, we just molded what was out there with the outside vendors that would do all that. And then I had a staff of very proficient pathologists that just were in prostate cancer. And that's, it was a very satisfying, challenging job for many reasons. And it was a great thing. But that's why I got into it. I mean, multiple reasons.
Well,
does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Very good.
Good.
So you play tennis, huh? Okay, I just have to go into tennis just because we've been tweeting back and forth, and I noticed that you're a tennis player. I'm a tennis player. I actually won a little trophy once playing tennis.
That's good.
Yeah, it was.
Well, I love tennis. I started playing tennis when I was a kid, and I it's a great way to think. It teaches you a lot about life. It's an individual sport, and a lot of times. I mean, you play doubles sometimes, but it's primarily individual, and it's I love it. I've had so many great things from tennis. One of the things it teaches you is everything's constant adjustment. Every ball's different. Everything's a challenge. You make mistakes all the time. You just have to keep on going. It's a great. To me, there's just a lot of great metaphors in tennis, and it's also a great workout. And you meet a lot of people. So I've loved tennis. Actually, last year for the first time ever, I played in the Chris Everett Pro-Am. That was fantastic.
Wow.
And that was a blast. I made a donation so I could do that. It wasn't like I was invited by Chris, but I did spend time with all of them, and it was a lot of fun. But those, I'm 53, so tennis has been. It's a great thing.
You're over the hill. No, just kidding.
Yeah, well, whatever.
I'm almost 46. Next week or so, I will turn the clock and it'll go 46. Ding ding. No, but I actually played. I have a mental health background as a marriage and family therapist, and I was invited to be part of a tournament with the mental health associations, and so me and my psychology friends. We played one afternoon for a while, and the team I was on, we won first place. So it was fun. I'm not nearly as advanced as what you are. But it was fun.
I was a lot more advanced 20 years ago.
It was fun. I mean, I've been playing since high school, but it's really true because you got your volleying, you got your serving, and, where you're weak in one area, you tend to have strength in the other. But one of the things I learned, and then we'll get back to your book here, is I was amazed that this one woman who would come and play with us, she had to be at least 80 years old, and she would always come with her dog. Her dog would sit on the sideline because it was an old dog. And but this woman could kick all of our butt. I mean, she'd just be standing there, and she'd be like, "Tung," and she'd just whap it over, and we'd be like running our butts off trying to go hit it. And she'd walk 3 steps. Boop.
I tell you, depending on the level you play, placement is a big deal.
Yeah.
So she's really good at placing the ball. She didn't have to look good. It's where the ball is.
Definitely. And, the whole thing about it being an individual sport, even when we play doubles, you have to know you got to know what you're good at, So, anyway, I love tennis.
Or you let your team down and they get mad at you.
Yeah. Well, fortunately, we didn't draw blood that much, but occasionally, be like, hey. Anyway, looks like we have to go to a break. Yeah, our first break's coming up already. Can you believe that? The time is flying up by. So we're going to be right back, everybody. Hey, if you have a question for our guest, You prefer Mike, right? So.
Yeah.
Or do you? Okay, Mike Daugherty.
Mike's fine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to call and talk to Mike and ask him some questions, now's a good time. 714-202-9923. If you have a question in the chat room, feel free to throw it down there. I'll read it, and we'll be right back.
Hi everyone. Today I want to tell you about Spark Naturals Essential Oils. I recently became an affiliate with Spark Naturals, and I want to let you know if you go to sparknaturals.com and enter the coupon code JOHN316, you'll save 10% on your order every single day. I have to tell you, the reason why I became an affiliate with Spark Naturals is because I believe that their essential oils are awesome. And I've learned over the years that in dealing with anxiety, depression, stress, that just the simple smell of essential oils, and some that can be used topically as well, really does do more for you than taking psychotropic medication, which can often be very addictive and in the long run not very good for your health. I recommend lavender to begin with because lavender has been proven to reduce anxiety and stress. So go over to sparknaturals.com right now, enter coupon code JOHN316 and save 10% every day.
Next on the Pray in Jesus' Name show, Dr. Chaps will pray about these important issues.
I want to invite you not only to watch our television programs every weekday posted on our website, prayinjesusname.org, but I know that now that you've seen how we defend religious liberty, we defend the right to pray in Jesus' name, we defend pro-life issues, traditional marriage, and even our friends in Israel, I know that you're going to want to tell a friend to watch our program. Would you reach out? There are many social buttons you can share. Go to prayinjesusname.org. I'm sure you're already on our email list, but forward those emails to a friend. Donate if you can, but especially, let's help spread the word. The more people we get to sign our petitions, the more we can defend free speech, defend religious liberty, and your right to pray in Jesus' name. Please tell a friend today about prayinjesusname.org. God bless you in Jesus' name. This is Chaplain Gordon James Klingenschmidt, Dr. Chaps. Please join me every Saturday for 2 full hours as we report the news, discern the spirits, and pray the scriptures in Jesus' name, right here on the active Christian media network of Blog Talk Radio. And please support Randall and Stacy Harp at activechristianmedia.com.
You are listening to Bible News Radio on the Active Christian Media Network.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Today our guest is Michael Daugherty, and the book is The Devil Inside the Beltway, the shocking expose of the U.S. government surveillance and overreach into cybersecurity, medicine, and the small business. By the way, I forgot to tell you that Mike is actually the son of 2 Detroit city cops, so he's got, cops in his family. Anyway, welcome back. So tell me, let's continue. Well, actually, we have a question from Scott. Why don't we just start there, and then you can go on with your story. So Scott writes, "Hi, Mike." Go ahead, say hi back.
Hey, Scott. How are you?
Okay, good. See? Look at this. We're bonding, everybody. No, okay. Okay, he says, "Hi, Mike. What government agency has the best track record for truth, and which is most compromised? Sometimes it seems like a lot of CYA. Kiss your butt, in other words, right? That's what you're saying? By the way, he has words in this book, but it's okay because we understand why. All right, go ahead.
That's interesting. I was going to talk later about the fact that it's a permeation in many agencies. Obviously, I think the IRS has lost a ton of credibility right now. I do believe most ground people, I want to still believe they're good, just they're way misguided, and they're also powerless within the agencies. I wish I could name you a really good one. Isn't it terrible that my list is really short on that? And my experience primarily is with the Federal Trade Commission. I do think that the state agencies are much more hands-on, and I do think that the state agency levels, we had fantastic relationships with the Department of Human Resources in Georgia that managed laboratories. It was just not like an audit. They were science professionals. We were working together. We built a great relationship. And I think this is what can happen when you get to these behemoths. There's no personalization, there's no relationship, and then they turn into these monstrosities. So I wish I could tell you differently.
I was just going to say that's not a word you hear in everyday language, behemoth. From the from the Book of Job. Yeah. What am I talking about? Yeah, see, I actually know what that is. Some people might not. But
something large and overblown. So, I think it permeates all over the place, Scott. I wish I could tell you the good ones. It doesn't mean they're all terrible. You have to watch out. I think, it's the human condition when power is brought together is the problem. It's the human condition when you give them all power, and they've all gotten very big and very powerful right now. So
he's writing a response. I'll read it as soon as it comes up. But, what really surprised me about this is, this is in Georgia that this took place. And, Randall and I, we just moved from California, Southern California, to Tennessee. And this is something that seems to me that it would have happened in California, not in the middle of America. So I just kind of find that interesting, even though, I guess you can attack
I can explain that why. After the FTC came in, and they started challenging us, I had to figure out what the heck was going on, and I knew my lawyers weren't going to do it. With all respect to lawyers just focus on the law in front of them. The lawyers are not private investigators. And, it's almost like they only play the cards you give them, by and large. And I went out to find out what was happening, and I found out through the miracle of Google, and all at once. I was looking for a couple months, and it all came together at once. I found that Dartmouth University had gotten $24 million from Homeland Security to go out and search, and they analyze these cybersecurity losses and leaks, and they were really more leaks than they were breaches, so to speak. And they were using Tyversus technology, and I find Tyversus sitting in front of Congress in 2007. The very guy that's on the phone with me is in front of House Oversight testifying about all this in general. And he's with Wesley Clark, his head on his advisory board, and the Federal Trade Commission. When I saw them all at the table together, I was like, "There's no way these people are not connected. No way. The world's not that teeny. It's not that coincidental. This is not a connection." And then I found them again in 2009 in front of Oversight again, and in front of Commerce. And then I found our file in Wired magazine, and the Congressional Record, and the Dartmouth study, and it all connected. And what he said under oath, and what he said also in a press release, is that they have patent pending technology. They can do up to 1.5 billion searches a day. They were monitoring 4.5 million workstations, and they downloaded over 13 million files, one of which were mine. That's what they said publicly. But it was 2009, so no one really got what that was. If you said it today, it would have been a whole different story. So here's a private company that's working with a funded study and a major university looking and monitoring us and downloading 13 million workstation files. What happens if China buys them? What happens? Why is it theirs to protect? Why is it theirs to take and hold and keep and not tell us what they've done with it or how they got it? It was so insane that even now it's hard for some people to get their head around it. It's still hard for me to get my head around it, how those congressmen could sit there and not go, wait a minute. But that's what happened. And they all base it on the fact that, well, it was vulnerable, and if you put it in that folder, then you were giving up your rights. That's what it's never been legally defended, but that's their big argument. It's like, oh, well, it was in the public domain. And it's like, no. So, but the problem is to fight that costs money. But what's the rest of Scott's question? I just want to give you that back for him.
Yeah, Scott just responded. He said, IRS is one of the most powerful, very scary, but I completely support everything they do. No audits, please.
Now, I think he's kidding, but see what happens there?
No, he
is. It's fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Exactly.
And,
yep.
One of the reasons people don't want to stand up is that they believe the press. And I get it. Why tons of companies roll over because it's so hard and expensive to get there. And they want to make an example of you. It's like the 21st century example of 14th, 15th century medieval justice, where they can't control the masses, so they're going to put a spike with someone's head up on the bridge. And right now, the Federal Trade Commission's head on the bridge is LabMD, my company. This is what's going to happen to you if your security practices aren't fine. We get to say what they are. We make up our mind up 6 years later. We don't have standards or rules. We don't need to have any. Oh, and if you fight us, this is what will happen as well. So, when you're a corporate lawyer and your company calls with this problem, you're not going to tell these people, go ahead and fight. But for me, I felt I had no choice. I've just chosen to take the heat and the ride, because it's terrible that he feels afraid the IRS is going to audit him. It's all publicity from the government. It's terrible.
I was just going to say, one of my friends, Audrey Russo, she's had a lot of interesting bad stuff happen, but one of the things that she talks about on her show, and I should connect you, and maybe she'll interview you too, but she always talks about how we censor ourselves and we intentionally say the politically correct stuff now because we've been taught that if we don't, we're going to get it. And, what she constantly talks about on her show, always at the beginning, she'll always say, you know what, stop censoring yourself, say whatever it is you want to say. And one of the things we talk about here a lot is, we talk about religious persecution and sometimes the homosexual agenda. And just saying certain things, you can get smacked upside the head a lot by lots of people. So it takes somebody with a conviction and courage and fortitude to be able to blow the whistle on certain things. And I think the reason why I'm so passionate about stuff like this is because I know what it's like to be a victim and have my voice silenced, and I also know what it's like to get it back.
Well, that's true, and there is a price to pay. I mean, I am writing a sequel to this because the book ends when the feds sue me, and the lessons I've learned after, really, some great, fantastic things have happened. There's some lessons I've learned that are terrible, and people do run away from the whistleblower because they're afraid of getting the dust on them. Corporation. Now, I'm speaking, and I'm getting paid to speak, but there's some companies that are afraid to get involved, to even write a brief in support of us because they don't want to get on the bad side of the Federal Trade Commission. These are very powerful people. They have built the game, and they've stacked the deck in their favor, and they give sound bites about how they're trying to protect us. And we have enough examples right now where they're not. And as conservatives, we have to tell story, not just rant and rave and be intellectual. I think that's why I wrote the book like a novel, because I want people to get into the minutia of what happens, into the life of what happens, and to the reality of who's impacted by this. And the irony of it, an agency who is supposed to protect consumers has now utterly destroyed a cancer detection center. They have done nothing to protect consumers on data security. They are fighting in court for some sort of a slice of the pie. They're lawyers, not technology experts, and now they're under congressional investigation. Yet their motto is that they're protecting consumers. And until you tell story and bring life to people about what happens so that we all know with each other what happens, they'll get away with it. And I think it's important. But it was a responsibility of mine because at the same time, most people can't fight back. I was at a time in my life where I had the money and I had the wherewithal, and my dog bowl wasn't going to be taken away from me. They can't take away my house or my food, and I don't need a ton of stuff to be happy. So you know, it was okay for me, and I knew that wasn't the case with most people.
Yeah. Randall wants to say something.
Mike, I remember when your story first kind of hit the news media, or I'd say the alternative news media. I can't remember if I saw it on the Blaze or something like that, what was going on. But since reading more about it, especially just while you've been on this on the phone here with the Oversight Committee and all that, it just reeks of things we've seen in other parts of government where it wasn't Tyversa that reported this supposed data leak to the FTC. It was the Privacy Institute, something that they created that apparently to create distance between them. And then, here you're talking about the university using the Tyversa software and all that. I'm hoping that this investigation, if there are any ties between Tyversa and the FTC, that there's this scratch each other's back kind of arrangement where people who don't buy our services, you go after them, sue them, and we'll take a cut. We'll divvy up the loot. If such a thing is going on, it wouldn't surprise me. I hope that hope that comes out as part of this investigation.
Oh, well, it's going on all right, and I can talk about that.
All right.
Nice. I mean, that's a very astute observation. As what people once the investigation started, it's amazing. You think Don't Fight City Hall. 4 years go by. You've written a book. The book has been it's just been a bullet through the glass, and it has put people on notice. And I've just not played by the rules. Now, I haven't played like an anarchist, crazy person either. I've just tried to be factual and patient and persistent. And what happened was, lo and behold, the depositions start, and Tyversa starts talking about the Privacy Institute. We're like, what is the Privacy Institute? Well, from that 2007 hearing, the FTC wasn't very happy that they were publicly embarrassed about all these things getting out, because they were assigned to solve this problem years before. And clearly that was a public flogging. And the FTC is very sensitive to money from Congress and bad publicity. The rest of it, secondary. So they subpoenaed, or told Tyversa they were going to subpoena them, and Tyversa's like, no, we're going to fight that. So they said, well, why don't you start a third-party entity, and we'll just funnel it through there. And that was the FTC's idea, from what I've been told. And so they started the Privacy Institute, and they incorporated it in Delaware. And and who's involved in that is amazing. And there's the FTC getting files from the Privacy Institute. Craziness. And the way the FTC works is, don't ask, don't tell. Don't look, don't know. So they wouldn't challenge where the evidence came from. They wouldn't challenge who was on the list of companies turned over. They just took it at face value, and then they used it for their own means. And the means was, look, we're frustrated with Congress. We don't have cybersecurity regulation. We only have the Section 5 law. Section 5 says we have to protect consumers from unfairness. Let's start going after these companies and use the taffy pull of our definitions to just bully them down. And that's what happened. And yet at the same time, who's going to sit there and blow the whistle on something like this arrangement? But you picked it right up, because that's the unconscionable stuff that they do that cannot continue. It's crazy. It's terrible.
Okay, it looks like we're about ready for our second break. Everybody, and I do have another question I'll ask you on the other side of the break. But if there's anybody else out there, if you're listening, you want to call in and talk to Mike, phone number is 714-202-9923. Call that. Or if you're in the chat room, you have a question, feel free to throw that out as well. We'll be right back.
You have competitors. They are competing for the attention of your intended audience. How can you stand out in the crowd? Chapel Hill Media produces broadcast-ready video and audio promotions to get you noticed. Chapel Hill Media will script, storyboard, produce, edit, score, and deliver your promotional video for far less than you might expect. Chapel Hill Media will script and record your audio promotion with professional voiceover and original music for a price that won't break your budget. Contact us today for a free evaluation. Go to chapelhillmedia.com. That's chapelhillmedia.com. chapelhillmedia.com.
You are listening to Bible News Radio on the Active Christian Media Network.
We take a break just to humor y'all, because, it's expected. We're back, just in case you missed us. Okay, so our guest today is Michael Daugherty. Am I saying your name right? I'm trying to make sure I'm saying it.
It's Daugherty.
Okay, that's what I thought, because it's not how it's spelled. Oh, by the way, we should probably talk.
But I'm used to it getting butchered. Everyone butchers it. I don't care. It's fine.
I know. I've been trying not to butcher it, though. Okay, so everybody go to the Devil is in the Beltway.com. You can go there. The Devil Inside the Beltway.com. You can go there. You can learn more. And all of you have a lot of social media. I was surprised you're even on Pinterest. I was impressed.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time I've been. I'm big on Twitter and Facebook, and I hopefully Pinterest has probably been a little bit a few months ago, but it's exhausting. Yeah. Google Plus.
Anyway, yeah, I know. Social media can be a pain, and it can be a blessing at the same time. Okay, so here's Alice's question. And I don't know if you're going to be able to answer this, but this is what Alice wants to know. She says, does he have an opinion of what has happened to Kevin Trudeau?
Okay, well, just put me on the spot and refresh me on Kevin Trudeau, and then it'll give me the...
Well, I'm going to guess. Okay. Kevin Trudeau
is that who's in prison? Go ahead.
Yeah, he was a mega memory guy. He did all these infomercials. I guess he exposed, cancer or something. That's basically what I'm thinking. But she's typing something, so I can wait and see what she has to say.
Didn't he have all those infomercials?
Yes.
Well, I don't.
Yes,
here's the thing. Okay.
That's what she said. Yes. Okay.
Here's my opinion of what happened to Kevin Trudeau. Look, these people have a lot of power, and you better make sure you're as squeaky clean as you can possibly be. We had no problems with our filing, our insurance, our practice of medicine, our relationships. It's really tough to go after Cancer Detection Center and vilify them when you have to be regulated and licensed every year by another agency of the government. Or when Health and Human Services says we're not investigating them, we don't see a violation. We were in a different situation. I don't know a lot of specific stuff about him, but I know if you're told to do something, even if it's wrong, you have to go do it and fight through the system. And saying I'm doing both. I'm not ignoring. We've been totally cooperative with the FTC. We've given them what they wanted. Doesn't mean now they would beg to differ. We went to court arguing they didn't have the rights and jurisdictions, and we still are saying that. But that's our right to do that within the system. And that's the thing about I think Kevin Trudeau is where they would nab him with ignoring. I'm not the type that would refuse to pay my taxes or something like that. I would, or refuse to comply with court orders. But we've got so many darn good points and such a strong case. That's why it's getting so much attention. And I think the book, The Power of the Pen and the book threw them for quite a left hook. And I knew if I was going to write a book, it had to be done well because it was going to attack. They're going to attack you. That's the first thing they do is attack the messenger, attack the message. That's what they do. Bring out the dirty laundry. So,
yeah, Alice.
No. Go ahead.
Alice just says this. She says, on November 29th, 2011, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals upheld a $37.6 million fine leveled against him for violating that 2004 settlement. And then she says, I think he's in prison now. He fought them.
Right. But fighting them is different than how you fight and what the stakes are and what happened. See, I mean, what's unusual about, I don't know his case specifically, but I will tell you where the FTC gets in quicksand with me is they are arguing things that have never been tried in court before. Congress has let this agency make their own rules and make their own courts, and they've also said you can't get to an outside court until you're through with it. Well, we're going to go to an outside court, and we're going to get through it. And what they're arguing to many people is crazy, which is they don't need to have standards on cybersecurity. They don't need to have rules. They get to go case-by-case basis. That is not going to stand up. In a medical facility, not telling us what we have to do. We're going to have rear-view mirror laws so now the law is going to be you should have known better. It's just impossible. But, and so what I've done is shown through story how we think we have our day in court, but we can't get our day in court right now the way Congress has structured this day in court, unless we have a lot of money and a lot of patience. And so what I wanted to do is to show people the story of the patience and the money to let them understand. But that doesn't mean every case is a case of government persecution. I'm not arguing no laws or no regulation or saying they're all just terrible at all times. I just speak within the context of what happened with me, and I do think when it comes to the Federal Trade Commission and their administrative process and how they deal with companies and getting into areas where they don't have specific jurisdiction, they use their power to drain and bully you before you get to an outside objective party. And there is many points in my case that has gotten we've been accepted to go on appeal in the 11th Circuit now. We have a congressional investigation going on. If I had not fought back, this would never happen because there's 50 consent decrees now where they've gotten where companies just rolled over and bullied them. And that's the part that's like you can't scare people into submission and then brand them with a maybe and then walk on and act like you're saving the world. And that's what has to stop.
So what can companies learn from what happened with you?
It's scary right now.
Yeah, you want to expose it, but what do companies have to do in order to not get in the mess you're in? I guess is basically,
Well, I mean, they could just roll over. I mean, and they really could just roll over and sign it. And because I would say the government has very little credibility right now, but we didn't have the money to do that. They can also tell their own stories over time. Like true social change changes slowly. This is I just wanted this whole story out so that it can be used later. I mean, basically, LabMD's already been killed by the government. We stopped operations of January this year because we were drained so dry by them. And, it's a company. I mean, I'm going to, move forward and rise up, and I'm determined to be better off by letting people know about this. My employees have had their lives turned upside down. They've had to find new jobs. They've lost their jobs. Almost all of them have new jobs now, but it creates tons of turmoil. Patients have to find other labs. Doctors have had to find other laboratories. They don't have the type of software we have. They all miss that. No one has that. And I want people to understand the impact. If we just cower in fear and roll over, these stories don't come out, and then I say the government gets to have picnics on cemeteries and act like it's not a cemetery. They act like it's a park. And so, but I also don't want to be 15 minutes of roadkill on the news. I don't want to be, this tragic, terrible story. No, that's not it. It's that this can happen to you, and we have to understand how this can happen, and we have to understand why. Look, it really boils down to that the Founding Fathers separated the powers of the government for a reason, because they knew no matter what the political persuasion was, the human animal is going to corrupt if he has absolute power, period. And yet Congress... Huh?
I was just going to say, and the problem is we have people in government doing things that they're not supposed to be doing, like judges making law, and other
and
stuff.
And that's because Congress has allowed these agencies to congeal and form in complete opposite of the intent of the Founding Fathers. I mean, that's why these agencies, and they've gotten so big and so entrenched now. That's why all these horror stories are popping out. Things didn't happen overnight. But, I mean, it takes a long time for these cultures to form.
So what other stuff has happened to you in terms of like harassment? Have you actually have any death threats or anything?
No, it's really funny though. So I have had a lot of people tell me to be careful I don't get murdered by the government. Shockingly many people that are otherwise in very credible positions. I just absolutely don't believe that in my instance, because I'm not that important, and this isn't the movie, some crazy movie, but what's happening mostly has been silent walls, ignoring, just not wanting to get involved, suppression. Media has been frustrating because media has got such a short attention span. They want, I don't know if they all live. If you have to have your whole story in a Twitter string now, and this is just everyone. There's this whole crowd of who hasn't read the book, and then there's a crowd of who's read the book, and they're very different. Mm-hmm. And so I have to be very patient on that. But it's the terrible things that have happened to me have been the personal impact of I have no place to go to work now. I have no company. My employees are out. Those are the terrible, terrible things, and that just you, But you bring meaning to what happens to you by doing what I'm doing. So I'm not happy this has happened, but I'm not an unhappy person, and I have very fulfilling work, and it's starting to work. So, I just feel like it's really important to when you can stand up the right way to stand up. So I'm okay.
That's good. If you need therapy services, I'm available after the show.
That's good.
Do you have a question, Randall? Alice also writes, no question. He was, okay, stop typing so I can read the question. It says, no question he was taking advantage of people. Okay, that wasn't it. Okay, no, wrong comment. See, all you guys yapping in there. Okay, so it says, okay, Alice said, I think it is amazing that your parents were both cops. He was born and raised to be fighting this right now, so.
It's just strange. My mom, they were in Detroit, and it was the 50s. I was born in 1960. And my mother, she would joke about, and also, I was lectured by my mother that it's not polite to use the word cops. You're supposed to use the word police officer, but it's my fault.
Alice, there you go.
So that was my fault because I put that in there.
So you said cop, but
I did, and I got a lecture. But she said back in the 50s it was the women's division. What did the women's division get? They got juvenile court and meters, parking meters. But my dad was an investigator, and he did homicide work, and he was in that investigations for years and years and years. So I never saw my dad in a police uniform, and I never had a car in our driveway that was marked with sirens and lights. We always had unmarked cars, and he wore a trench coat like Columbo. So that was a different thing, and I think that you never learn. Life's interesting, but you're right. I wasn't aware of that until. This I think probably because I just so sopped up being around judges and lawyers and police officers, and that, this type of behavior is just outrageous. I could not let it go. It was just too wrong. And I know that everyone can't fight every battle. There's been battles I've been fought that I had to move on because I was powerless, but I'm not powerless right now. If this happened to me when I'm in my early 30s, I would have had to suck it up and move forward. But I didn't have to. I'm just hell-bent on making this bigger than it was, and or better off than I was. And building a platform as an author, building a platform as a speaker, educating people, in a pretty calm way, I hope. Not yelling and screaming, but really educating people that why do we have to have power separated? If people would understand that, I'd be so happy, because I think so many of us don't understand it anymore. I don't think they understand that the government just it's not even possible for them to save our lives, let alone a believable thing.
I think the government should just mind its own business. Instead of trying to poke its big fat nose in our business, I think it should just leave us alone. This is a completely, let me just finish, okay? A couple of nights ago, me and Randall were watching this TV show called Mountain Men. It's from 2012. And there was a part in the show, all my listeners oh no, they're watching Mountain Men now. It was Duck Dynasty. Now, before that it was Drop Dead Diva. But anyway, yes, you do know what I watch on TV, and that changes your life, doesn't it? But anyway, there's this point to this. So Mountain Man, this guy, he lives in the mountains, and he shoots his own food. He grows his own food. He basically lives there by himself in the middle of nowhere. And he goes to the mailbox, and he gets this thing from the government for taxes. And he's just like, what the heck? They're taking my land away from me because I didn't pay these taxes. And he was really, really, really upset about it. He was basically saying, hey, you're going to have to kill me, before you take my land. But then he ended up, selling some eggs. Wood. Oh, that's right. It was wood. He sold some wood so he could pay his tax bill. But, even there, it's like, here's a guy minding his own business, doing nothing, having nothing to do with anything, and he's still being, harassed by the government for taxes.
Completely off the grid.
Yeah, he's off the grid even. But anyway.
And the small little microcosm of that is they've got to bring a bone back to the office or they're not doing their job.
Right.
And they don't respect the power they have. Now, look, a lot of people need to pay their taxes. We don't want to throw the baby out the bathwater here, but the whole dynamic is crazy. Of just they should be trying to work with you. This is a naivete I had when I was working with the medical regulators, because we were all so professional with each other. And they never tried to trip you up or have even feel threatened. If you disagreed with something, it was an education process, not a how dare you. But when it comes to the Internal Revenue Service, we all just figure whatever it takes to make it go away as fast as possible, unless it's outrageous. I don't care if it's right. And that's terrible. But that's what's happened.
Okay. Now Randall had something.
Yeah, just real quick comment on the separation of powers. I believe when the founders wrote the U.S. Constitution, their idea, why did they have the separation of powers? To keep, each other in check and to keep the executive separate from the legislative and the legislative separate from the judicial. But, I think they had an idea that they would be keeping an eye on each other, being separate branches of government. I didn't think they envisioned that they would start colluding with one another to build a big hole as in WHOLE, which I think unfortunately we're seeing a little bit on some fronts. But as what is it, Stace? Help me out here. We're in Jeremiah, the human heart is desperately wicked and above all deceitful. Something like that. Who can know it?
17:9. Something like that.
It's true. That reminds me. You read a book review earlier. The San Francisco book review gave me 5 stars and said, and I was so proud that this came out of San Francisco. It said the founding fathers would be rolling in their grave.
Yeah,
in the San Francisco Book Review.
Jeremiah 17:9 says, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? Okay. Is that what you were thinking?
That's what I was thinking.
I am a Bible scholar in the family.
Okay.
That's the reason for separation of powers, because,
Oh, yeah. Well, and, but we have such an ignorant populace today, really stupid, dumbed down people in our country. We're dumb. By those standards from the 1700s, sure. We're stupid idiots, We're useful idiots.
Oh, and even civics classes. Don't even start me on how, one of my favorite teachers ever was the civics teacher, and I read about her in my book. She's the one that talked to me about, there's only 2 types of fare, not 3. There's taxi fare, and the fares there where rides are that you pay to ride. That's the only type of fares there are. There's no other type of fare. And she was a great civics teacher. And I can't imagine people don't know this stuff. I mean, they think it's political to learn about the Constitution. It's scary. Well, no wonder we have this generation walking around thinking everything's done for us with all the technology that they have ready for them the second they come out of the womb, and they get applauded for everything they do no matter what. And then they don't know anything about the foundations that the country. It's just it's terrible. And so you got to and you're gonna get smacked in the face till they get your attention. And I don't I'm glad I'm 53. I don't think I'd be so great if I was 20 right now, thinking what's going to be happen to healthcare by the time I was in my 70s or 80s. There's some bumpy times coming ahead here.
I think there is, and yeah. And we kind of talked about that a little bit yesterday because I was playing some audio from Dr. Dennis Cuddy, I believe he used to work in the Reagan administration, but he's done a lot of historical research. And one of the things he was talking about is how Common Core education is really training this generation that's here to become workers. As opposed to like our generation, as opposed to our generation where we went to college. College was really encouraged, and we have a particular skill. But I mean, with technology, I used to work in elementary school, and I was amazed that the children were learning computers so young, and they're even at the point now in the education system where they're no longer teaching handwriting because the kids they're on computers. They don't even know how to write. Which is insane.
It's insane, and it's scary because these children don't have developed life experience, so they drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, come on, they're just clean slates, and so they don't know. Now it's ironic though because I would say a lot of people in their 20s now are much more libertarian, better than crazy leftists. So maybe this big prediction of this big vast left-wing movement, and people have said we'll never have a Republican in the White House ever again, or until things change. I don't know. Hopefully that's not going to be the case, but I do understand why it's happened, and I'm thankful I was born where I was and had the experiences I had. I mean, I had pretty much a corny upbringing. I grew up in Detroit, and then we moved out suburbs, and we could ride our bikes down the dirt roads, and we left the doors unlocked, and we could, that just doesn't happen anymore. And we had to, we had to think of things to do to entertain ourselves.
Yeah.
And now I go into friends' homes, and they've got all their kids are separate from each other, and they've got earbuds in their ears, and they're watching their own iPads, and they're on their own. And everything comes to them, and that's the scary part.
It really, really is. It's very scary. I remember when I was a kid, we used to get the big, huge refrigerator box, and then we'd get in it, and we'd take it down the dirt hill, and we'd jump in it, and we'd slide it down the hill, and we would have a good old time. Today, you couldn't do that because it would have to have government regulation where you'd have to put foam on all the corners so the box wouldn't get destroyed, or the kid. You'd have to wear a helmet and a seat belt. You wouldn't be able to. You would have to do any of this stuff. It's totally ridiculous.
it's and really you just lose your opportunity for creativity.
Yeah.
Is the thing.
Well, it's really.
I don't know. It'll be interesting.
Well, would you like to talk to for another couple of minutes? We can extend the show a little bit. And get more into your story and talk more about the burning, stuff that's in here, or you can just say goodbye. It's up to you. I don't mind.
Yeah, we can talk a few more minutes. Another. What time is it? We can go. Let's just go to like 20 after the hour. You got another 20 minutes?
Yep, sure.
And I got another spot I got to go on, and I need a little break time to get my head on.
After this one.
I don't know. Okay. Are we going to break or?
No. I'm saying after you talk to me, you'll need a break. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think what's happened now, what people understand is that I want to show people. I really just want to be like a movie camera, showing everyone what they do, because I think we don't see it that much, and I want to be as unfiltered as possible, and that's why I was really glad that I had not what I said, but like I had emails, I have letters, I have FOIA docs, I've got things in there that aren't from me, and the story in and of itself is exciting in a way because you just can't imagine what they're going to do next. And they're provocative and they're provoked. You know, and after when they sued me, that book must have really got them upset because they came after us with I say George Bush's line of shock and awe. They came after us with shock and awe. They subpoenaed almost 40 people. They went after they tried to go as far as they could as far as deposing doctors. Former employees had left the company 6 years before, 6, even 7 or 8 years before.
That's
deposing
great.
them. It was, and if you just work in IT or you're a billing person and you get a subpoena from the federal government, it is scary. And then those people then you've got this huge bias because just like the one caller, Scott, who talked about, well, I'm happy with the FTC. These people were scared for their own skin. So even in depositions, they try to throw the company on the bus a little bit because they don't want anyone coming after them. It's just a really, that was a very painful part, is to see them be intimidated, and the intimidation, the FTC will go, well, we didn't say anything nasty to them. No, you didn't. No, you just sent them a subpoena, and they had to get a lawyer, and they come and have to speak to the feds, and you act like Iceman cometh, and you're just grilling them in a deposition. No, that wasn't scary. For what?
I actually was deposed about 2 years ago. A friend of mine was maligned online, and he asked me to be a part of his case, and they deposed me. And I'll tell you what, they wanted me to fly to another state to do it, and I'm like, nope, I ain't going to do it. I'll do it on the phone. And even on the phone, so I ended up doing it on the phone, and I tell you what, I was nervous as all get out. I was nervous because I had never been cross-examined by the other attorney. I knew the story, I knew the facts, but I was amazed, and I was floored beyond words the way this lawyer tried to put words in my mouth and scare the crap out of me. I'm like, oh my gosh! And then later I got the transcript of everything because they sent me this big, huge, packet, and I'm reading through it and I'm thinking, oh my gosh! I remember my friend telling me afterwards, he texted me, he said, you did such a great job. He said, when you started to not answer fast, when you stopped and you were silent, he said, I was watching the other lawyer kind of squirm in his chair because I wasn't saying anything. And, but yeah, I mean, people don't know unless they've been through it. And that was for me, it was scary, but.
And they know that's coming and they exploit it. I mean, they've got a million tricks up their sleeve, and I just want to show, here's what they don't know what's coming. Oh, well, this is a public transcript. This will be in the next book. I mean, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. And all I have to do is hold this mirror up to these people. They're unconscionable. And I'm happy. And I'm happy to say, it's easy to say now, I'm very happy to say it worked. They are under scrutiny. And there's a congressional investigation. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have great chapter titles in here. Chapter 14 stands out to me. This is what it says, Round 4 of Kissing Their Ass.
That's one of my favorite titles.
Tell me, yeah. Sorry, people, bleep that, okay, if you're having children in the room. But tell me about that chapter because, the title kind of suggests it, but what's that chapter about? Actually,
it was just like, all the behind-the-scenes, the commentary is, what is up with these people? I mean, really, this is ridiculous. We're a medical facility. There's no injuries. They've got no injured parties. They can't even prove it got out. They're not using the word breach. And they're relentless. And yet and they're asking the same questions over and over and over and over. And it's like they're either really incompetent or they're trying to trip us up. So it was just exasperating. And yet, with all that frustration, you have to smile. Because you're standing in front of a growling dog. And when you're standing in front of a growling dog, you don't growl back. You stand there and hope it goes away. And so that's what we were doing. We were just smiling and cooperating and packaging things up and getting more lawyers to do things and answering the same questions again and just hoping they'd go away. But it was crazy. And that's what we were doing. We were just kissing their bleep. And
What happened with your lawyer? The one that you mentioned at the beginning.
Well, which one?
Well, the first one. The
first one. Well, she wanted to. She kept saying as the FCC started acting more and more shocking, she felt very over her head. She had never dealt with them before, and they were completely baffling her. And so, which, rear view mirror, they were baffling everybody. But so she naively, but well-intentionally, thought that I should get someone with FTC expertise from Washington, D.C. That's a whole other lesson in the book. If you haven't gotten to that part yet, you have to be somewhat careful. But I lay out so many communications from my D.C. lawyers that used to work at the Federal Trade Commission. And, I don't think how they conducted themselves was that particularly admirable. I think people can draw that opinion from some of the emails and letters that were in the book. But she, it's a sign of a good lawyer to put their client first instead of their financial pocketbook and say, look, you might be better served by someone more experienced. So that's what we thought would happen. It took a while. But that's what happened.
So do you trust?
There's a lot of good education in the book about how, working with law firms, what's a good lawyer, what's a bad lawyer. Those are things that, I had some interns working with me on the book early on, and it was interesting. What they were fascinated about was different. They loved to learn about law firms and lawyers because you really don't interact with them a lot in your 20s or in college. So, they found that very fascinating, which I found surprising. I was like, okay, great. It's good feedback.
Yeah. Well, it's good to know. Randall, do you have any other questions?
No other questions. Just commending you to, take this to a book and, speak out loud, so to speak, for people to be aware of what's going on.
The pen is mightier than the sword.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, it's all propaganda today. You really don't know what to believe unless you actually look at source material, and most people are too lazy to do that.
I had really good editors, I know, because it was such a stressful thing to do. I had to disappear a lot. I went to London, I went to New York, I went to the middle of nowhere, I went to the beach, and I would just, you had to just really get away from it. You had to wait a couple of days for your mind to calm down and just get into it and just ignore everything else and get it. Then you have to have really good editors to just make sure you're not yelling at the reader and that, you're not repetitive over and over. And it was, it's very empowering.
That's good.
I separate my country from my government.
Well, sure. Well,
I said I love my country, but I don't like my government too much right now. So.
I can understand that. I mean, I think anybody can if they've gone through something like that. Okay, so we got about a couple of minutes here. So everybody, the book, again, is called The Devil Inside the Beltway, and there's a big, long subtitle, The Shocking Expose of the U.S. Government Surveillance and Overreach in the Cybersecurity, Medicine, and Small Business. I would actually tell you to go over to the Devil Inside the Beltway.com. You can see Mike's website. You can see him smiling on the page there. Look at that cute face.
I try to smile as much as possible.
I think you should. I mean, it's very important.
Yeah, it's not all that. I mean, it's...
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, if you even have a photo book here on your page where people can see lots of pictures of you if they want, and put them on Pinterest. Now,
and let people know about the book.
Yes. Also, and then in Amazon, I always go to Amazon and read reviews of the books. And first of all, you have a lot of good positive reviews, and the ones that are like, quote, 1-star, what a snarky individual.
Are they not entertaining?
Yeah, they're stupid.
Okay, now let me just tell you how much. Okay, so I was told when you become a first-time author, you're told, look, people, if you have all, and I had a lot of 5-star reviews, and they're like, look, if you, and they weren't rigged, and it wasn't mom, there are really people out there 5 stars, and but they said you got to get something other than a 5 because people just think it's rigged. So here comes Merry Christmas, the 1-star. And on Goodreads, she put on Goodreads. Also on Goodreads, you can have gifts and you can have, pictures. And this woman went all out. I was so flattered. I put it up on Facebook because I said, look at how upset I got someone. Isn't that flattering? She just spent all this time building this project of insulting me with, she had monster heads, and she had checked me up on Twitter and Facebook and researched me, and she saw that I had said I liked Ted Cruz. I don't want to upset her, but about in 2012, before he was a senator, just out of a fluke, I actually had dinner with him. That would have set her head on fire. So, but you just have to take it all with a grain of salt and enjoy it.
Oh,
and it does. It stood on its own.
I understand. I wrote a little book called 5 Successful Ways to Stay Depressed, and I had somebody give it a 2-star review and titled their review, "This book sucks." Because it didn't make them happy, and the funny part is their review just shows that they listened to my advice in the book, because really it's a reverse psychology. It's supposed to be a tongue-in-cheek book that if you do these things, you're going to be depressed. If you don't, then guess what? You won't be. Everybody else was like, yeah, I like this, but this person was, no, this book sucks. So I always laugh when I saw that too, because I can't lose that, actually. If they hate the book, then I can say, well, you guys just did what I told you to.
It's true.
But
it's a crack up.
It is. So your next book, when are you expecting it out? Are you almost done with it?
No, it's very heavily outlined, but the story hasn't stopped. It's tentatively titled "Exploiting Patriotism," and we're still going. I mean, we've got another hearing coming up in November. I can't see it coming out for another year, and it'll be probably a lot easier to write than this one, because and there's no shortage of material either. But boy, the roller coaster. I mean, who'd have thought? Because I wrote the book, Tyversa sued me for defamation, and that brought out a whistleblower, and that starts a government investigation, and that starts, all this stuff. So who'd have thought? I don't know where this is going to go. But it's pretty exciting. I know a lot of people find my book a big page turner, which is flattering, and I'm like, well, it's not over. There's more. You think you've seen it all. No, there's more to see. There's nothing more entertaining than a bureaucrat with their hair on fire. They're so outraged. And that just shows how contemptuous their opinion is of us outside of Washington. They just think we're just irrelevant peons.
Yeah, I think
so. I'm trying to.
I was just going to say, I think Washington's out of touch with reality.
Yeah, but they built themselves up so much they can be self-sustaining almost unless we do something about it. It's really, we have to demand respect or we get what we elect.
Ooh, demand respect or we get what we elect. That's a tweetable. Seriously, demand respect or so I'm going to write that down, or we get what we elect. That's really good. You should put that on your Twitter. And then
I think I'm going to.
Okay.
I know, things just fly in my mouth sometimes. That's why I keep this list. All right.
Okay. Well,
I had a delightful time.
I'm glad. I tried to make it happy for you.
That's okay.
A lot of painful interviewers out there, and I try to be laid back.
No, it's okay. I just want, it's just important to me for the readers to understand how this applies to them and not to feel powerless. And hopefully they'll read the book and learn a bunch of stuff, and they'll have more more bullets in their gun. They'll be okay.
Yep. Well, hopefully I get to interview you again when your other one comes out.
Yeah, I hope so.
Okay, cool. All right, we're going to go to break. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to close the show, but Mike's going to leave. Alice said this was a great show. She loved it, and she thinks you're funny.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, we'll be right back.
There's a lot of sarcasm in the book, too.
I know, there is. Okay, we'll be right back. Okay. You're listening to the wonderful soothing music of Randall Kevin Harp, who's not only a great composer, but he looks very hot when he wears certain clothes.
TMI.
I know. Sexual harassment on the job. No. Well, hey, he got my hand in marriage. What can I say? Anyway, okay, so what I just want to close out the show. We figured we'd go a little extra with Mike because, you know, he's pretty laid back and didn't mind. And he just wanted to keep talking about his book, which is a good thing. And really, if you like stuff like this, I recommend the book. It's actually very easy to read. It's big print, so it seems like the book is really longer than it is. It's like 500 pages or something. I don't know. I could tell you. Hold on. I can look here. There's 493 pages, but there's a whole bunch in the bibliography. So, but anyway, I mean, it's a serious issue, and I'm sure he's not the only one. He's just one of the few brave people who are standing up and trying to get the truth out there about what happened. I want to let you know tomorrow, October 2nd, if you're all listening live or to the podcast archive, tomorrow, October 2nd, we are going to play our interview with Dr. Stan Monteith because we're going to have a roof put on our roof. We're having a new roof put on our house. And I figure, I don't know how long it's going to take, and rather than have hammering over my head, I figure it would be better just to play the archive. So we're going to do that tomorrow, and then we'll have we will have on Friday, I guess, our free-for-all. No, do we have a guest Friday? I should look before I forget. Nope, no guest booked. But next week, we have Bill Salas. Bill Salas is going to be our guest on Tuesday. And then Kimberly Smith is going to be our guest on Wednesday. And then Thursday is my birthday, where I turn 46 years old. And then the week after, we're going to have L.A. Marzulli coming back on the show. And near the end of the month, Dr. William Bennett. Is it Bill? Is it William Bennett? I think it is. I don't know. Can't remember. I have to look at my show notes, see what I wrote. But, yeah, we have a couple of people coming on that I know you all like. So just thought I'd let you know that that's what we're going to do for the next coming days. Oh, also in the doc I have Nani Darwish. I have invited her back on the show. Haven't heard back from her yet, but hopefully we get Nani on the show as well this week. Not this week, but this month. Sometime, because it is October, if you can believe it. It's October. Can you believe it's October? Oh my gosh. Yeah. I love October. It's my favorite month because I was born in October. Yeah, tomorrow is my spiritual birthday. So that's kind of cool as well, having been baptized into Christ so many years ago. Makes me feel a little bit old, but also very grateful because as I get older, I tend to realize how much God has been merciful and gracious to me and given me more mercy and grace than I probably deserve. And just the opportunity I have to do this. Also, like I was sharing earlier this week, if you can donate to us, if you have, a little extra, like $5 a month, you can donate to us. That would help us because I had just lost a big social media contract and that hasn't been replaced yet. And we are living on a shoestring. So pray about that. And if it's your desire, go to BibleNewsRadio.com. Set it up over there. And don't forget, you can also join our email list there as well. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/ActiveChristianMedia. And that's it. So we'll talk to you on Friday. Have a good day tomorrow. And we'll see you then.